A warm welcome to our follow-up video talk and prayer together with our ecumenical partners, our partner churches of the Lippische Landeskirche here on Zoom. It's about COVID-19. The last times we met, we were almost situated at the beginning of the pandemic, but now it's half a year later than the beginning, at least in Germany. And we would like to share how everything is about in your churches and in your countries and in our country and church, of course, also.
Since we last spoke on the video chat, South Africa has moved to alert level 2 of the national lockdown at midnight on the 17th of August, 2020. The move to level 2 meant that nearly all the restrictions on economic activities has been lifted. And as we look back at the past 5 months since the country declared a national state of disaster to combat the coronavirus pandemic, all indications are that South Africa has reached its peak and moved beyond the inflection point of the curve. There are, however, a few remaining restrictions. I'd like to talk you through them very briefly. The country maintains its 50 people limit on the gatherings, which include, amongst others, funerals, weddings, and religious events. Current restrictions on international travel remains in place. And there's also a curfew that starts at 10 at night until 4 o'clock in the morning. That remains in place. It is all persons in South Africa are expected to remain in their space of residence during this time, except where a permit is granted. And when you are in a public space, you have to wear a mask. The Department of Health has launched a powerful tool that I'd like to share with you. And the tool was developed to help contain the virus and prevent a second wave of corona. It is a mobile app called COVID Alert app. Now, South Africans uses advanced Bluetooth technology developed by Apple and Google. All right, moving to the church now. Under the new regulations, houses of worship must adhere to strict protocols, even though the church services has been resumed. Some of the protocols are: the church facility needs to be sanitized and kept clean at all times. The congregations are limited to fewer than 50 people, depending on the size of the place of worship, obviously. Participants are required to wear masks and maintain the social distancing protocols in the service. There has been a tremendous decline in the payments of tithes and normal collections, and because there is no services, the fundraising, obviously. But some congregations has resorted to electronic contributions, but not all the church members have access to electronic platforms. Some of the pastors have received a portion of their salaries. Even though we are now under risk adjustment level 2, and the ease of the economic restrictions allow for a lively movement, COVID-19 and the resultant lockdown has had far-reaching effects on the church, its fellowship, ministry, and mission. The effects are especially felt by the poor and the rural communities, including the increased vulnerabilities of the women and children.
I wouldn't like to repeat what has been already said. There are lots of similarities concerning the regulations and the restrictions, as we heard from Desiree. I try to resume mostly on facts. What is going on in this country called Romania. A local politician formulated in a very eloquent way, it is my opinion, this overall situation. He was referring to the situation in Romania, but it is valid worldwide. He said that we are in the same storm, but in different boats. He is a lay politician. Us as Christians, we know that we are in the same boat. And seeing all of you during this webinar, this conviction is strengthened in my perception, in my opinion. I thank our Lord for this boat called Christianity. But as citizens of different countries and living on different continents, we can agree that the boat is not same, although the storm is the same. I would like to resume to the situation in Romania. In this country, the number of the people infected with coronavirus is approaching 100,000. And this is a significant number if we take the number of the population of this country, which is about 19 millions at this moment. 1,269 new cases were registered only last Saturday, and 1,150 last Sunday. This means that only on this weekend, the total numbers of infections is 2,419. Again, an alarming number. According to a report published by the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, ECDC, Romania is the country with the highest rate of death caused by COVID-19 in the European Union. In spite of these alarming statistics, the prevention measures are much lighter than at the beginning. During the lockdown, theaters, museums, cinemas, indoor restaurants are about to be opened, although it is still uncertain. The school year will probably start at the 15th of September. This is to be decided quite today. Our president announced that the school year will start at 15th of September. So I would like to step on to our next point. All of us, probably in your countries also, we ask ourselves, what will happen, what is going to be when we re-enter normality? One possibility is that as the epidemic expires and travel becomes possible, this country will be significantly emptied. Every second young person between ages 16 and 34 plans to leave the country for better earning opportunities. And another possibility, I wouldn't like to meet this situation again, but according some, as the epidemic ends and protests can be once again organized, we can expect street movements we last saw in 1989. The political situation is so unstable, so ramshackle, that the people are starting to lose patience, and we don't know what will happen on this level too.
We in Lithuania, really, we can be grateful that the virus did not spread very much. Now, we have in Lithuania, as in Latvia, one of the lowest numbers of infection. It's rising a little bit, but we have now some 1,000 cases, active cases now in Lithuania, which is in a country with 3 million inhabitants. It's not much less than in Romania or elsewhere in Europe. It's just in Latvia, I think, even lower. And the number of deaths is now something about 90, less than 100. So the measures taken by the government were obviously somehow successful. We can also be grateful that the economic recession is much or not that serious as was thought in spring. Also, the recession is one of the least serious in Europe, probably due to the fact that industry, production, agriculture is still quite strong in Lithuania. Services are not that harmed because it's not that important for the GDP. So the situation could be much worse. Of course, the government has not that much money to transfer, as I now read, is in Germany, transfer to people and companies. But if we compare to Romania, the political situation is quite stable, so stable that the Lithuanians now can care somehow for the Belarusians, the neighbors next to Lithuania, old partners, same history, and now on the agenda is much more, let's say, Belarusia than the own problems. because the Lithuanians see the responsibility to support the democracy in the neighboring country. Many people are afraid, and the main challenge for our church is now to get people back into the services on Sunday, although we have much space enough. The churches are not overcrowded in Lithuania, but now we have some on the Sunday here in Vilnius, some 20 people, which is quite low. There are no restrictions for the churches. Now, some churches at the Lutherans here, they practice always wearing a mask, but the government did not demand anything like that. Everybody, congregations can sing during the service, which we do practice because we have space enough and big church buildings. So
the pandemic, as I earlier stated in the meeting some time ago, was so much devastating and scary. The total number of infection was 48,780. And the total recoveries was 47,079. And we had 285 deaths, people who sadly passed on through this the virus. And so the active cases now is about 700 and some, not 1,000. The new, including new cases that were announced, which was about 600 new cases. And even that, most were asymptomatic because of the contact tracing that was carried out. It is mandatory to wear the nose mask and carry sanitizer wherever you are going. The lockdown we experienced, we were going to be locked down again, but it did not happen because of the improvement and how the management of the pandemic was going. And so the Ghana Health Service kept assuring us that as we stick to the protocols, the protective protocols, we will be able to mitigate this and return to some sort of normal life as the way forward. And so the restrictions have been relaxed. The hotels and restaurants cannot operate, but with social distancing, hotel rooms are not to be occupied by more than one person, with the necessary protective inputs that are to be put in place. Beach parties are banned for now. Pubs are still under ban, and public gathering is not supposed to be more than 100 people, even though people are still scared. Public transport is running at full capacity now. They now take the number they're supposed to take, the buses and the trotro. Our marketplaces, as you know how our markets flourish in Ghana, the markets have every month been disinfected. We have an open, clean market where everybody walks in there with his or her stuff. And so that is also being managed well. And before you enter the market, your nose mask and your hand sanitizer, hand washing effectively. And with the church, the churches have now been opened. We have been asked to do fellowship and service, but with a limited number. Now, in the auditorium, the number you take has been reduced to a quarter because of social spacing and distancing. And then the registration process, anyone that will enter the chapel to fellowship, you need to register your name and your phone number and the time of entry. And we have opened churches. Churches began in earnest, let's say, about 4 weeks ago. But still, some are shying away because they are still scared. The older people are not attending church. Children are not attending church. And so we are on it. And our members are also mostly affected economically because most are these workers and petty traders whose trade really have gone down because people do not these days buy from the roadside for fear of health problems. And so they have their businesses down. And so most of them feel they don't want to be in church because they don't have what it takes for them to come and donate or contribute in church. And so the number is not overwhelming. And then secondly, the way of our worship, you know, in Ghana, is about music and dance, mostly with the word. And we are no more doing the music and dance because it's part of the restrictions given by government to regulate the churches. And so we are managing, and you don't go more than 2 hours. And so this is how far we have come with the church. And we supported the communities and households with the protective items, sanitizers, the nose masks, hand washing soaps, some food items, and where there are no potable water, we were able to give sachet and bottled water. But the church, as at now, I would be frank, is struggling with finances because our finances come from the congregations, which are yet to get to their full strength operations for assessment to support the headquarters, which is not yet forthcoming. Because the churches were closed, there was nothing coming from there since March. From March 2020, no support came to the national church. And even the congregations themselves were also not raising funds. And so all what they also had was depleted because there are workers in the church who at the end of the month will have to be paid.
In Togo, I begin by in the country. In the country, our schools were closed, but in July, they permit the exams classes to go to school. Then they can have the exams at the end of the year. The universities are still closed until now. Travels by air are opened, but there are so many measures you have to observe. You have to pay 62 euros to have a test, to have a COVID test before you move. And when you come back, the same, you have to pay 62 euros to test yourself again if you are positive or negative. Those who are positive will take a part, then they will take care of themselves, but in a place chosen by the government. Another thing is that our borders are closed. If I want to travel to Ghana, no, it's not possible. I can't travel to Burkina Faso because the borders are closed. In our church, since July 17, they allow our churches to open some parishes, just some. Then in our churches, Evangelical Presbyterian Church of Togo, we have just 15 parishes who are opened. And then every office is there is policemen who come to check if everything is going well. Every Sunday, they send policemen to observe what is happening. Then you have to wash your hands. You have to wear your mask, and the places are very, very limited. And the office is just for 1 hour. Normally, there are 2. The salaries are divided by three parts. Yes. Then the pastors and the church workers can get just a part of their salary, and the rest is not paid.
I would say in Germany the situation is not easy, but more or less stable. In our region, a few people are newly infected with the virus every day. The last days it was between 0 and 3 persons are infected with the virus. in whole Germany, in our country, it's now about 1,300, 1,400 people every day infected. All about, we have 250,000 were infected, and 9,500 people who died because of COVID-19. After summer holidays, all schools are open again, and also kindergartens, and so it's a bit of normal life coming back, but only a bit, I must say. The challenges for the congregations remain. They must observe, as it is in your churches, many rules on hygiene and distance to slow the spread of the virus. This is particularly difficult for the church services on Sunday, to keep distance, not to sing. It has a major impact on our church services, I would say. On the other hand, I must say the congregations are getting used to it. A lot is being made possible again. For example, many congregations are celebrating confirmations in these weeks, which could not took place in spring. The economic consequences in Germany are still very challenging. Many people fear for their jobs, but as it was said before, the state catches a lot of that, I must say. So many things are difficult, but I always say that in the view of what the pandemic means elsewhere in the world, we have to say that we are doing comparatively well, I must say. I like the sentence we just heard, we are in the same storm, but we are in different boats, I would say also. This is true from the German side.
Dear sisters, dear brothers, thanks a lot for this sharing of information, sharing of what is important in your life, in your church life, in the life of your country.